This video is brought to you by SHOKZ. Today we're checking out the OpenDots 1 SHOKZ first clip-on earbud. So today I'll be scoring and ranking them against the best of the best in a total of 10 categories. Now the reviews I've seen so far for the OpenDots 1 have been mixed, but there was a firmware update that just got released that has fixed some of the issues that I've seen and experienced. Now the retail price is on the higher side for these buds, but they are bringing some serious value, especially when it comes to what's most important, and that is sound quality. But let's get into category 1, comfort. And I'm scoring the OpenDots 1 a 9 out of 10. Really no complaints here. You get a nice high quality, smooth silicone wherever the bud meets your skin. The wire has a nice amount of flex to it. It's a compact and lightweight bud, which has a very light feel when it's clipped on your ear. You do pay a premium price here, but it does have a premium build overall. The Bose Ultra Open and Huawei Free Clip to me have a slightly lighter feel on the ear. That's why they're scored slightly higher. It's not a huge difference though. Now, if you want to sleep on your side with the buds, the OpenDots are okay. They do stick out slightly from the ear, so you can kind of maneuver the bud around and get it in a comfortable position, but there are more comfortable buds for side sleepers on my ranking. But now, category 2 is the security of the fit. I'm also scoring them a 9 out of 10 here. The wire has a perfect amount of resistance and tightness, so the buds are comfortable, but it's going to lock on your ear very well, and the high quality silicone also holds the bud in place. So no matter how you use the buds, casually, weight training, or running, they lock in place really well. Now category 3 is the IP rating, and the OpenDots get a 9.5 out of 10 with their IP54 dust and water resistant rating. Baseus have a slightly higher score with a waterproof rating, but IP54 will get the job done. Now category 4 is case and battery life. And I'm giving out the first 10 out of 10 here to the OpenDots. So you get a very solid 10 hours of battery on the earbuds and then 40 hours in total with the charging case. You can chuck the buds in the case for 10 minutes, you're gonna get 2 hours of playback on the earbuds, and they're also one of the few buds on this ranking where the case can be charged wirelessly. And it's one of the thinnest and most compact cases on this ranking as well. Here it is compared to the thinnest case, the Soundpeats Pearl Clip Pro, but you can see here that the OpenDots are more compact overall. Now the build quality of the case is also decent. My only complaint here is that the hinge doesn't feel incredibly sturdy. Some of the other cases just have a nicer feeling hinge, but it's gonna be fine. I do like how they've designed it so you can put the left or right earbud in either side of the case. And it also doesn't matter which earbud you put on your left and right ear, the audio channels will automatically know which bud is in which ear. All right, now category 5 is controls. And this is the first downside of the OpenDots. I'm scoring them a 7.5 out of 10. This is still an area where the most recent firmware update sort of fixed the issue, but the controls are just wacky. The functions that you get include a double or triple tap anywhere on the bud. The triple tap was just added with the latest firmware. You can also increase the sensitivity if you notice accidental activations when exercising. You can also double press on the back of the bud, like where the battery compartment is, and there's also a long hold function there as well. The main issue with having a long hold on that part of the bud is that you're likely going to accidentally activate it when adjusting your buds or taking the buds on and off your ear. A workaround is just to never touch that back part of the bud and just kind of touch the side where the wire is, but it's just not very natural. Another issue is that you don't get the best freedom of customization, so the only way you can control volume is with the long hold on the back part of the bud, which I personally just turned off because I kept accidentally activating it. The double tap on any part of the bud can only be set to play pause, and the triple tap can only be set to track forward and back. So you can see it's a bit of a mess. Basically, if you turn off that long hold, you're really only going to be able to play and pause and skip tracks forward and back. Even if SHOKZ added in some more customization of like the individual function on the left and right earbud, this would make it a bit better, or just using like a nice simple physical button would also do the job. You do, however, get wearing detection here, which is quite rare for any open earbud. It works quite well. It does take about 2 seconds for your music to pause when you take one or both buds off your ear. And when you do take the bud off your ear, if you do have that long hold set, like I said, whatever function you have set to it will likely activate. After that 2 seconds when your music will pause and your wearing detection activates, the controls will turn off on that bud, but it's just a little bit slow for that to work properly. Now wrapping up controls here, you aren't able to mute your microphone using the controls on the earbud when you're on a phone call, but you are able to just answer a call, reject a call, and you can adjust your volume on a call using the earbuds, if you do have it set to the long hold, which you might not want to. All right, now category 6 is connectivity. Scoring the OpenDots an 8.5 out of 10. So basic stuff here, you get Bluetooth 5.4, SBC and AAC for your codecs, no high res, which I think is completely fine. A slight issue here is when using one earbud with the other in the case, the bud you're using isn't going to work in mono mode. So say you're only using the left bud on its own, you're only going to hear the left audio channel, not the left and the right. But you do get multi-point connection here with a maximum of 2 devices connected. You just need to pause playback on one device before playing it on the other device for that audio to kick in. And there is no low latency gaming mode. So in my quick test on my iPhone 15 Pro, the buds will be suitable for casual games. For quicker action games like shooters, it's okay, but I am noticing some slight latency there. All right, category 7 is call quality, and I run through 3 tests here: a quiet room, simulation crowd noise, and a simulation windy city with construction noise. Now here's all the scoring. The OpenDots get a 7.5 out of 10. Not the best, but they definitely get the job done. They perform pretty well across all 3 tests. Do keep in mind I had the noise reduction toggle on for phone calls, which you can turn on in the app, which should help reduce background noise. But now here are some samples compared to 2 of the best buds on my ranking: the Huawei Free Clip and Soundcore Aero Clip. All right, here's the call quality of the Soundcore Aero Clip in a quiet room. All right, here is the call quality of the SHOKZ OpenDot 1 in a quiet room. All right, here is the call quality of the Huawei Free Clip in a quiet room. All right, now we're gonna see how the microphones block out some simulation crowd noise. All right, here is the Soundcore Aero Clip with some simulation crowd noise. All right, here is the call quality of the SHOKZ OpenDot 1 with some simulation crowd noise. All right, here's the Huawei Free Clip with some simulation crowd noise. All right, now I have some city noise, some construction noise, and some simulation wind. All right, here's the Soundcore Aero Clip, some city noise, some construction noise, and some simulation wind. All right, here's the SHOKZ OpenDot 1 with some city noise, some construction noise, and some simulation wind. All right, here's the Huawei Free Clip with some city noise, some construction noise, and some simulation wind. All right, now category 8 is app customization and extra features. Scoring the OpenDots an 8.5 out of 10. From the top, you have your earbud battery. There's a Dolby Audio toggle as well, which I'll cover later. You get 4 EQ presets and a pretty decent 5-band EQ. You have your multi-point toggle, the control customization I ran through. There's a Find My Buds feature. If you misplace your buds, it'll emit a beep from the earbud. And you got your wearing detection toggle, the noise reduction toggle for phone calls, and you also have the option to adjust the prompt tone volume. So decent app, nothing too crazy, but you get the basics. All right, now the final 2 rounds here are gonna be for sound quality. Quick disclaimer as always, to get the most out of the sound for a clip-on earbud, really play around with the position of the bud on your ear, moving it a bit higher up or lower. I like to angle my bud inwards slightly towards my ear canal to get the most out of the sound. And as always, bring your expectations down with open ear sound. You don't get a seal with an ear tip, so you're not getting sound quality on the same level when it comes to an earbud with an ear tip, especially when it comes to bass, although the OpenDots do get the closest. But starting here with my max volume test, I've just got over 108 decibels. This is measured not with a seal, just with my sound meter with a driver right up next to it. So not the most accurate, but basically you're getting enough volume here. Unless you're in like a super loud environment. I did test these earbuds on a pretty loud bus on the way to the city, and listening to music is completely fine. I was listening to a podcast on Spotify, and I did have to go close to 100% volume to be able to hear the podcast clearly. So I'd say just enough volume here. And in my sound leakage test, I do have the OpenDots ranked number 1, so on par with a few other earbuds there. Still, it's an open earbud, so if you're in a quiet environment, around 60% volume is where someone near you is going to hear some sound being leaked. All right, now onto the sound quality itself. I break this down into 2 categories: how the buds sound below 60% volume and above 60% volume, because a lot of the buds can take advantage at lower volumes, pushing out more bass without distorting. And SHOKZ really nailed it here when it comes to low level listening. I'm scoring them a 10 out of 10. I actually had to change the entire scoring here to kind of squeeze the OpenDots into that number 1 spot, because the bass is just a standout. As I always say in my open earbud reviews, we need all the bass we can get because we just don't have a seal with an ear tip. So the OpenDots just have the richest and fullest bass out of all the buds on my ranking. Keep in mind, this is for open earbud standards. You still don't get that much deep sub bass. I don't know if we'll ever get it on an open earbud, but we'll see. But compared to all the buds on this ranking, they do get the closest kind of bass response to what you get with an actual in-ear earbud. It's not just the bass though, the mids and treble are super clean, so vocals are nice and clear, they're natural, they're well separated, and the treble has some nice detail. It's definitely not the standout when it comes to the tuning, but it's boosted to a point of not getting harsh or sibilant at all, and you still hear those nice details and those high frequencies. Now this is just going off the stock EQ. I do like to just boost the bass ever so slightly, just by 1 decibel with the sub bass and mid bass. And this pushes out a slightly richer bass response where the bass boost EQ preset is a bit bloated. But now onto the sound quality above 60% volume, I'm also scoring them a 10 out of 10 here. The great sound you got at lower volumes basically carries almost all the way to like 100% volume if you need to go there. It's only on the last 2 clicks where the bass doesn't increase that much, But in terms of loud level listening, you're getting the best experience here on the OpenDots. Now comparing the bass to the Soundcore Aero Clip, I originally had them as the bass king at high volumes. The OpenDots do perform better. They push out slightly deeper bass here, and there's just more of it as well. Again, there's more of it, but it still has some nice punch to it, and it's not bloated or messy. And when it comes to overall clarity and separation, the OpenDots do have the slight edge over the Aero Clip. Especially when it comes to the treble, it's just a bit crisper on the OpenDots. For open ear sound, this is the best I've heard. And like I said before, you do get that Dolby audio feature, which is, I think, supposed to be almost like a spatial audio effect. This did work well on the SHOKZ OpenFit 2 Plus, but here it really just adds a bit of reverb. It does open up the soundstage slightly, but I just found myself not really using it. I think they sound better with Dolby audio off. But that wraps up all 10 categories, and this scoring doesn't really matter because we all have different preferences. So be sure to download my custom scoring spreadsheet linked below. You can check all my scoring, notes, there's a specifications tab, a core quality tab, and you can personalize the weight of the score for each category, and you get a new custom ranking in order of highest to lowest. But now the final scores are in, and the OpenDots 1 finished with 90 out of 100, so they're just in that second spot. So it's really just the wacky controls that hold them back from being the #1 bud. If the controls don't really matter that much to you and you just want the best sounding open earbud, these are 100% worth it. But comparing them directly to the Huawei Free Clip, they're at a similar price. The Free Clip do give you better call quality, a slightly more comfortable fit, and better controls, although they're not amazing as well. But then there is a Soundcore Aero Clip, which you can get for about 40% less than the OpenDots. So overall, features are pretty close. The OpenDots do give you that slightly richer sound when it comes to bass and clarity. You get longer battery life and dust resistance on the buds. But the Soundcore Aero Clip are really not that far off in overall quality, so they're a solid value bud as well. So SHOKZ has really impressed me, especially considering this is their first clip-on earbud. If you want to grab them, you won't be disappointed, except for the controls. They might disappoint you a bit. But anyway, for more on SHOKZ, check out this video right here. Thanks for tuning in, stay picky, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye now.